All right, folks, welcome to today's session where we'll delve deep into the fascinating world of portfolio mathematics. This lecture is a crucial part of your quantitative methods learning module, specifically focusing on expected return, variance, covariance, and correlation. These concepts form the backbone of portfolio management, and mastering them is essential for excelling in the CFA Level 1 exam. So, buckle up and let's get started. First things first, let's talk about the basics of expected return and variance of return. Imagine you're an investment manager building a portfolio and you want to estimate how much return you can expect. This involves calculating the expected value of your investments, which is the cornerstone of making informed investment decisions. The expected value of a constant multiplied by a random variable equals the constant multiplied by the expected value of that random variable. This is a fundamental principle that simplifies complex portfolio calculations. The weight of each investment, denoted by WI, reflects its proportion within the portfolio. A higher weight signifies a larger stake in that investment. So the formula for the portfolio's expected return looks like this. Your portfolio's expected return is just a weighted average of the expected returns on each security. So if you're combining multiple investments, the overall expected return is the sum of each individual expected return multiplied by their respective weights. Now, things get more interesting. We not only care about individual returns, but also how they move together. This is where covariance comes in. It measures how the returns of two investments tend to fluctuate in relation to each other. Think of it as figuring out if two friends tend to hang out a lot or rarely see each other. In finance, this relationship helps us understand the risk and return dynamics between different assets. When investments move in the same direction, up together or down together, the covariance is positive. When investments move in opposite directions, one goes up, the other goes down, the covariance is negative. When there's no relationship between the returns, the covariance is 0. Now, there are some properties of covariance. The covariance of a random variable with itself is its own variance. Covariance is symmetric, meaning the covariance between two variables, say Ri and Rj, is the same as the covariance between Rj and Ri. This is how we will write it mathematically. As the number of assets in a portfolio increases, the importance of covariance increases as well. Diversifying a portfolio effectively means paying close attention to how the assets interact with each other. The smaller the covariance between assets, the greater the diversification benefits, and the lower the portfolio risk. Portfolio variance measures the risk of the portfolio. The variance for a 3-asset portfolio is decomposed into 3 variance terms and 6 covariance terms. The order of variables in covariance does not matter. Correlation is another concept related to covariance. Correlation is a standardized measure of the relationship between two variables, providing insights into the strength and direction of their linear relationship ranging from -1 to +1. 0 means no linear relationship, +1 means perfect positive linear relationship. That is, investments move in lockstep. -1 means perfect negative linear relationship, that is, investments move in opposite directions. Understanding correlation helps us visualize the direction and strength of the connection between investments. Correlation helps in understanding the degree of diversification benefits. The closer the correlation is to -1, the better the diversification benefits. Okay, now we're going to tackle a key concept in portfolio management. Forecasting the correlation of returns using joint probability functions. This might sound a bit technical, but don't worry. We're going to break it down step by step. Understanding this will help you better manage your portfolio by understanding how different assets move in relation to each other. All right, let's start with the basics. A joint probability function helps us determine the likelihood of different outcomes for two assets occurring at the same time. This is crucial for forecasting how these assets might interact in a portfolio. Imagine we have two stocks, Tech Corp and Health Incorporation. We want to understand the relationship between their returns. Here's a table of their joint probabilities. The probabilities assigned to the different return combinations for Tech Corp and Health Incorporation reflect typical market scenarios. For example, there is a 25% chance that both sectors will perform exceptionally well, maybe in a bull market. This 50% probability may represent a steady, stable market conditions leading to moderate growth. And then there is 25% probability of low returns for both sectors. First up, we need to calculate the expected return for each stock using these joint probabilities. We will multiply these probabilities with each stock's expected returns. The expected return on Tech Corporation stock is 16.25%. This is how we'll get to this value. We will do the same with Health Incorporation stock. The expected return on Health Incorporation stock is 15%. Next, we use these probabilities to calculate the covariance between the returns of Tech Corp and Health Incorporation. Covariance measures how much two random variables change together. This is the formula for computing the covariance between random variables, in our case, stocks of Tech Corp and Health Incorporation. Here is a table summarizing the calculations for the covariance between the returns of Tech Corp and Health Incorporation. We will break it down by each probability. First, let's calculate for 25% probability. We start by calculating the deviation of each return from their expected values. Next, we multiply these deviations together, and then by the joint probability. We will do the same for other probabilities as well. Finally, we sum these results to get the covariance. By calculating these steps, we determined the covariance between Tech Corp and Health Incorporation is 0.3125%. This positive covariance indicates that when Tech Corp performs well, Health Incorporation also tends to perform well, and vice versa. Understanding this relationship helps us better manage our portfolio by anticipating how these assets might move together. Okay, let's talk about independent random variables. Two random variables are considered independent if the occurrence of one does not affect the occurrence of the other. In simpler terms, the probability of one variable happening does not change because of the other variable. This means the joint probability of X and Y occurring together is the product of their individual probabilities. Now, you may be wondering what the implications are for portfolio management. When dealing with independent random variables, the returns on different assets do not influence each other. This is a useful property for diversification since it means the risk of one asset does not spill over to another. Consider two stocks, Stock A and Stock B. If the returns on Stock A do not provide any information about the returns on Stock B, then these two stocks are independent. This implies their joint probability distribution can be factored into the product of their individual distributions. Next, let's discuss the multiplication rule for the expected value of the product of uncorrelated random variables. This rule is useful when calculating the expected return of a portfolio with uncorrelated assets. For two uncorrelated random variables x and y, the expected value of their product is the product of their expected values. It's important to note that uncorrelated random variables are not necessarily independent, but independent variables are always uncorrelated. Uncorrelated means that the covariance between the two variables is 0. This rule simplifies the calculation of expected returns in a portfolio where the assets are uncorrelated. For example, if you know the expected returns of two uncorrelated stocks, you can easily find the expected return of their combined investment by multiplying their individual expected returns. In portfolio management, we often assume that returns are normally distributed. This assumption simplifies many calculations and provides a useful framework for risk management. This normal distribution assumption is the foundation for three key concepts: mean-variance analysis, safety-first rule, and Sharpe ratio. Okay, let's talk about mean-variance analysis. This fancy term helps us build portfolios that balance risk and return. Mean variance analysis is based on the assumption that returns are normally distributed. This approach helps investors optimize their portfolios by balancing expected return and risk. Let's say you have two options: Portfolio A with a higher expected return, but also a higher chance of losses, that is riskier, and Portfolio B with a lower expected return, but less risk. Mean variance analysis helps you pick the option that best suits your risk tolerance. The safety first rule focuses on minimizing the risk that the portfolio's value will fall below a certain threshold. This ratio prioritizes protecting your principal investment. Imagine you set a minimum acceptable value for your portfolio, like a safety net. The safety first rule helps you choose the portfolio with the lowest chance of falling below that value. We use a fancy ratio called the safety first ratio to compare portfolios. According to Roy's safety first criterion, the optimal portfolio minimizes the probability that the portfolio return falls below this threshold level. When returns are normally distributed, the safety first optimal portfolio is the one that maximizes the safety first ratio. A higher ratio means a lower chance of nasty surprises. The Sharpe ratio is another important measure for evaluating the performance of a portfolio. It is defined as the ratio of the excess return over the risk-free rate to the portfolio's standard deviation. This ratio helps investors understand how much excess return they are getting for each unit of risk they take on. A higher Sharpe ratio indicates a more favorable risk-return trade-off. It is widely used to compare the performance of different portfolios. Basically, it tells you how well you're being rewarded for taking risks. Finally, let's talk about managing risk. Two important tools here are value at risk and stress testing / scenario analysis. Value at risk tells us the potential worst-case scenario for losses within a certain time frame. For example, a 1-week value at risk of $10 million with a 5% probability implies that the portfolio is expected to lose $10 million or more in a single week, 5% of the time. Value at risk can be estimated using the variance-covariance method, which assumes that returns are normally distributed. Stress testing involves estimating losses under extremely adverse scenarios. This helps in understanding how a portfolio might perform under severe market conditions. It provides the minimum value of losses expected over a specified time period at a specified level of probability. Imagine putting your portfolio through a boot camp. Stress testing throws extreme situations at your portfolio, like a market crash, to see how it would hold up. Scenario analysis lets you pick specific hypothetical events, like a change in interest rates, and see how they might affect your investments. All right, folks, that's a wrap on portfolio mathematics. We've covered a lot of ground today, from expected return and variance to covariance, correlation, and various risk management techniques. Remember, these concepts aren't just theoretical, they're the tools you'll use to manage risk and optimize returns in real-world portfolios. Make sure to review your notes and practice these calculations from the CFA Institute's examples and end of chapter questions. Understand the relationships between expected return, variance, covariance, and correlation, and you'll be well on your way to mastering portfolio management. If you have any questions or need further clarification, don't hesitate to ask. Keep pushing forward, stay curious, and good luck with your CFA journey. Happy studying!